The morning light filters through the tall windows of Providence Municipal Court, casting long shadows across the wooden benches where dozens of ordinary citizens wait their turn. Inspector Quinn shuffles through papers at his desk. The gallery is filled with the usual mix: worried mothers, embarrassed teenagers, elderly folks clutching parking tickets. But this Tuesday morning, something is different. There's an electricity in the air, a tension that even the bailiff seems to sense as he straightens his posture near the side door. Judge Frank Caprio adjusts his glasses and glances down at the next case file. His eyebrows rise, just slightly, but those who know him well recognize that subtle tell. He's seen something unusual. The name on the file reads Marcus Whitmore III. Below it, a handwritten note from the clerk. Defendant requested private hearing. Request denied. Case number 47892, the clerk announces. Marcus Whitmore III. Charges include reckless driving, fleeing a traffic stop, and verbal assault of an officer. The double doors at the back of the courtroom swing open with unnecessary force. A young man in his late 20s strides in like he owns the building. He's wearing a $3,000 Italian suit, a Rolex glinting on his wrist, and an expression of pure contempt. His attorney, a silver-haired man from one of Providence's most prestigious law firms, hurries behind him, clearly uncomfortable with his client's theatrical entrance. Judge Caprio watches this display with patient eyes. He's seen wealth before. He's seen arrogance before. But there's something about this young man that makes the veteran judge pause. Behind the expensive clothes and the practiced sneer, Caprio notices something else, a tremor in the young man's hands, a redness around his eyes that no amount of bravado can hide. "Good morning, Mr. Whitmore," Judge Caprio says, his voice warm and unhurried. "Why don't you step up to the podium so we can talk about what happened here?" Marcus Whitmore approaches the podium but doesn't stand behind it. Instead, he leans against it casually, as if he's waiting for a bartender at an exclusive club. His attorney winces visibly. "Your Honor," the attorney begins, "my client would like to—" "I can speak for myself, Richard," Marcus interrupts, his voice dripping with entitlement. He turns to face Judge Caprio directly. "Look, Judge, I'm sure you know who I am. My uncle is Governor Whitmore. I'm late for a meeting with the mayor of Boston, so let's skip the theatrical nonsense, dismiss these ridiculous charges, and I'll be on my way." A collective gasp ripples through the courtroom. The gallery, filled with working-class Rhode Islanders, a nurse who works double shifts, a single father fighting a parking ticket, an elderly woman on fixed income, stares in disbelief. Inspector Quinn stops writing mid-sentence. But Judge Caprio doesn't flinch. He doesn't raise his voice. He simply removes his glasses, cleans them slowly with his robe, and puts them back on. When he speaks, his voice is softer than before, almost gentle. "Mr. Whitmore, I appreciate you telling me about your uncle. That's very nice, but in this courtroom, everybody is equal. The law doesn't care who your family is. It cares about what you did." He pauses, letting the words settle. "Now, I'm going to ask you again, nicely, to step behind that podium and show this court the respect it deserves. Can you do that for me?" For a moment, it seems like Marcus might comply. His attorney is practically pleading with his eyes. The bailiff takes a step forward. But then something flashes across Marcus's face. Not anger, exactly, but something deeper, something desperate. "You're powerless," Marcus says, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're a municipal court judge in Providence, Rhode Island. Do you have any idea how many phone calls it would take to have you removed from this bench? One. One phone call to my uncle and you're done." The courtroom falls absolutely silent. Even the court reporter stops typing. All eyes turn to Judge Frank Caprio, the man who has served this community for decades, who has shown mercy to the forgotten and held the powerful accountable in equal measure. And Judge Caprio does something unexpected. He smiles. It's not a mocking smile or an angry one. It's the smile of a man who has seen enough of life to recognize when someone is drowning, even if they're drowning in designer clothes. "You know something, Mr. Whitmore?" Judge Caprio says, leaning forward slightly. "In 40 years on this bench, I've learned that the people who talk the loudest about power are usually the ones who feel the most powerless. So instead of talking about phone calls and threats, why don't you talk to me? Tell me what's really going on." For the first time since he walked into the courtroom, Marcus Whitmore has nothing to say. His hand goes to his face briefly, wiping something away, and in that small gesture, the entire room sees the crack in his armor. Judge Caprio gives Marcus a moment. He's seen this before, the moment when the facade starts to crumble, when the real person begins to emerge from behind whatever mask they've been wearing. He learned long ago that silence in the right moment is more powerful than any words. The attorney attempts to fill the void. Your Honor, if we could perhaps take a brief recess. Let him speak, Counselor, Judge Caprio says gently. Mr. Whitmore, I'm looking at this police report, and I have to be honest with you. This doesn't look like you. What I mean is this doesn't look like something a person does just because they feel like it. You were doing 90 miles per hour on Admiral Street at 2 in the morning. When the officer tried to pull you over, you didn't just ignore him. You accelerated. You ran 2 red lights. And when he finally got you stopped, Caprio pauses, reading from the file. You told him, and I quote, "Go ahead and shoot me. I don't care anymore." The words hang in the air like smoke. The gallery, which had been ready to hate this privileged young man, grows very quiet. Inspector Quinn looks up from his papers. Mr. Whitmore, Judge Caprio continues, his voice now barely above a whisper. What did you mean when you said that? Marcus stands frozen at the podium. His expensive attorney shifts uncomfortably. For a long moment, it seems like he won't answer. Then, slowly, almost involuntarily, he begins to speak. You want to know about my background, Judge? Fine, let me tell you about my background. His voice is bitter but brittle, like ice beginning to crack. My father is Gregory Whitmore. You might have read about him in the papers. CEO of Whitmore Financial, Forbes 500, Philanthropist of the Year, Pillar of the Community. He laughs, a hollow, broken sound. What the papers don't tell you is that Gregory Whitmore hasn't spoken to his son in 3 years. What they don't tell you is that when I was 17, I made the mistake of telling him I wanted to be an artist instead of a businessman. Do you know what he said to me? He said, "Then you're not my son. You're nothing." Judge Caprio nods slowly, encouraging him to continue. That must have been very painful. Painful? Marcus's voice cracks. I was 17, Judge. I hadn't done anything wrong. I wanted to paint. I wanted to create something beautiful. And my father, the great Gregory Whitmore, he cut me off completely, changed the locks, froze my trust fund, told the rest of the family that if they helped me, he'd do the same to them. The attorney, clearly hearing some of this for the first time, stares at his client with new eyes. So how did you survive? Judge Caprio asks. My grandmother, Marcus says, and for the first time his voice softens. Nana Rose. She was the only one who stood up to my father. She took me in, paid for my apartment, helped me apply to art school. She used to say that talent is a gift from God, and refusing to use it is like spitting in his face. He almost smiles at the memory. She was the only person in my entire family who ever made me feel like I mattered. She sounds like a wonderful woman, Judge Caprio says. Is she still with us? The question lands like a physical blow. Marcus grips the podium with both hands. His whole body seems to shrink. She died, he whispers. 3 weeks ago, pancreatic cancer. It was fast, too fast. I was with her at the end, holding her hand. And do you know what she told me? She said, Marcus, promise me you'll keep painting. Promise me you won't let them win. Tears are streaming down his face now, and he makes no effort to hide them. Several people in the gallery are crying too. And then she was gone, and I was alone. And 2 days after her funeral, 2 days, my father's lawyers showed up at my apartment with an eviction notice. The apartment Nana Rose had been paying for. They gave me 48 hours to get out, 48 hours to pack up my entire life. That's when the incident happened, Judge Caprio says. It's not a question, Marcus nods. I was driving to my uncle's house, the governor. I thought maybe, just maybe, he would help me. We used to be close when I was a kid. He taught me to ride a bike. He came to my 8th grade art show. But when I got there, his security wouldn't even let me through the gate. My own uncle. And something just broke inside me. He looks up at Judge Caprio with red-rimmed eyes. The car I was driving, it was my grandmother's, a 1967 Mustang convertible, cherry red. She loved that car. And I was driving it like a maniac because I didn't care anymore. I didn't care if I lived or died. I just wanted the pain to stop. Judge Caprio removes his glasses again, not to clean them this time, but to wipe his own eyes. Inspector Quinn sets down his pen. The courtroom is absolutely still. Mr. Whitmore, Judge Caprio says softly, I owe you an apology. Marcus looks confused. What? When you walked in here today, I thought I had you figured out. I saw the suit and the watch and the attitude, and I made assumptions. That was wrong of me. I should know better by now. Every person who stands at that podium has a story. Every person is carrying something. I'm sorry I didn't see yours sooner. Judge Caprio leans back in his chair, studying Marcus Whitmore with new eyes. The arrogant young man who had strutted into this courtroom threatening phone calls to the governor has disappeared. In his place stands someone far more familiar to this courtroom, a broken human being, drowning in grief and desperate for someone to throw him a lifeline. Marcus, Judge Caprio says, using his first name for the first time, I want to help you, but I need you to help me understand something. When you came in here today, threatening me with phone calls and political connections, what was that about? Marcus laughs bitterly. You want to know the truth, Judge? I was scared, terrified. I've spent my whole life in my family's shadow, being told that the Whitmore name means something, that it protects you, that it makes you special. And when I lost my grandmother, the only person who ever loved me for me, I panicked. I put on the armor I grew up watching my father wear. I became everything I hate. He looks down at his expensive suit as if seeing it for the first time. This isn't even mine. I borrowed it from a friend. I sold most of my clothes weeks ago to pay for my grandmother's hospice nurse. The insurance company denied her claim, said the cancer was pre-existing. His voice drips with disgust. Pre-existing, like that matters when someone is dying. You paid for her care yourself? Judge Caprio asks. Every penny I had, my savings, my art supplies, the commission I'd been working on for 6 months, I sold everything, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. She deserved to die with dignity, surrounded by people who loved her, not in some sterile hospital room alone. Inspector Quinn speaks up for the first time. Your Honor, I have something to add to the record. Judge Caprio nods. Go ahead, Inspector. I did some research on Mr. Whitmore before this hearing. I do that sometimes with cases that seem unusual. He picks up a folder. Marcus Whitmore isn't just some trust fund kid playing artist. He graduated top of his class from the Rhode Island School of Design. He won the Aldrich Fellowship 2 years ago. That's one of the most prestigious awards in contemporary art. His paintings have been exhibited at galleries in Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. Marcus looks stunned. You looked that up? I also found something else, Quinn continues. Last year, Mr. Whitmore donated one of his paintings, valued at $15,000, to the children's wing of Rhode Island Hospital. He asked them not to publicize it, just said he wanted the kids to have something beautiful to look at while they were going through treatment. The gallery murmurs with surprise. This is not the entitled villain they had expected. Judge Caprio smiles warmly. You see, Marcus, that's who you really are. Not the guy in the fancy suit making threats. You're the guy who gives away his art to sick children. You're the guy who bankrupts himself to care for his grandmother. That's the real you. Marcus shakes his head. It doesn't matter who I am. After tonight, I'll be homeless. The eviction goes through at midnight. I have nowhere to go. No money, no family. I thought maybe if I came in here acting like a Whitmore, throwing around the family name, I could make this all go away and figure the rest out later. It was stupid. It was desperate. I know that now. Where's the painting? Judge Caprio asks suddenly. What painting? The one you were working on. The commission you mentioned. You said you sold your art supplies, but you didn't say you sold the painting. Marcus hesitates. It's in the trunk of Nana Rose's car. It's the only thing I have left. Well, that in the car, but I can't sell either of them. The painting, it's for her. It's a portrait of her, from when she was young. I've been working on it for over a year, using old photographs. I was going to give it to her for her birthday, but she didn't make it. His voice breaks completely. It's all I have left of her, the car and the painting. Everything else is gone. Judge Caprio is quiet for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice is thick with emotion. Marcus, I've been sitting on this bench for a very long time. I've seen thousands of cases. And I've learned that the measure of a person isn't what they do when things are easy. It's what they do when things fall apart. You're standing in front of me at the lowest point of your life. You've lost everything, your grandmother, your home, your family, your money. And instead of crumbling, you're still fighting. That tells me something. What does it tell you? Marcus asks. It tells me that your grandmother raised you right. It tells me that somewhere inside you, underneath all the pain and the fear and the borrowed suits, there's a good man trying to find his way home. A woman in the gallery, the nurse working double shifts who came in for a simple traffic violation, begins to cry quietly. The single father puts his arm around his young son. Even the hardened bailiff looks moved. Your Honor, Marcus says softly, I'm sorry for what I said when I walked in, for threatening you, for all of it. You didn't deserve that. Nobody in this courtroom deserved to witness that ugliness. I was scared and angry, and I took it out on everyone around me. That's not who my grandmother raised me to be." Judge Caprio nods slowly. Apology accepted. Now let's talk about what happens next. Just as Judge Caprio is about to continue, the doors at the back of the courtroom open again. This time the entrance is quiet, hesitant almost. An older woman walks in slowly, supported by a cane. She's elegantly dressed but clearly frail, with silver hair and sharp, intelligent eyes that survey the room before landing on Marcus. Marcus turns and freezes. "Aunt Helen?" The woman, Helen Whitmore, sister to the governor and grandmother to half the children in Providence's most exclusive private schools, makes her way down the aisle. The entire courtroom watches in stunned silence. "May I approach, Your Honor?" she asks, her voice quavering but dignified. Judge Caprio gestures for her to come forward. "Please." Helen Whitmore stands beside her great-nephew, barely reaching his shoulder. She looks up at Judge Caprio with tears in her eyes. "Your Honor, I've been sitting in the back of this courtroom since before my nephew arrived. I didn't know he would be here today. I came because I come here often. I like to watch you work. You remind me of my late husband, Judge Walter Whitmore. He served on the state Supreme Court for 30 years. Judge Caprio's eyebrows rise. "I knew Judge Whitmore. He was a good man and a fine jurist. I didn't realize you were his wife." "He always said the same thing about you, Your Honor. He said Frank Caprio understood that justice without mercy isn't justice at all. It's just punishment." She pauses, gathering herself. "I've been listening to my nephew's testimony. I didn't know any of it. I didn't know my brother cut him off. I didn't know about Rose's cancer, or the hospice, or any of it." She turns to Marcus and her voice breaks. "Why didn't you come to me, child?" Marcus looks away, ashamed. "I tried, Aunt Helen. I called. I wrote letters. Your staff said you weren't accepting visitors. I thought you were like the rest of them." Helen's face goes pale. "My staff said what?" She grips her cane tightly. "Marcus, I've been in physical rehabilitation for 6 months after my hip replacement. I hired a new assistant to handle my correspondence. I never saw any letters. I never received any calls. I had no idea." She sways slightly, and the bailiff steps forward to steady her. "My brother," she whispers, realization dawning. "Gregory did this, didn't he? He always had people everywhere, even in my own home." The courtroom buzzes with whispered reactions. The story that had seemed like a simple case of entitlement has become something far more complex, a family drama spanning generations, with Marcus caught in the middle. Judge Caprio raises his hand for silence. "Mrs. Whitmore, this is highly unusual. You're not a party to this case. I understand, Your Honor, but I have something to say, if you'll permit me." She draws herself up to her full height. "This boy, this young man, is the last good thing to come out of the Whitmore family in 2 generations. His father is a monster who cares only about money and image. His uncle, my brother the governor, is a coward who lets Gregory control him. But Marcus has his grandmother's heart and his grandfather's talent." She reaches into her purse and pulls out a photograph, yellowed and creased with age. "Do you know what this is?" She hands it to the bailiff, who passes it to Judge Caprio. He studies it carefully. "It's a painting," Caprio says. "A beautiful one, a young woman sitting in a garden." "That painting was done by my husband," Helen says. "Before he became a judge, before any of it, he was an artist. He gave it up because his father told him it wasn't a respectable career for a Whitmore. He regretted it every day of his life. On his deathbed, he made me promise that if I ever met a young person with real talent, I would help them. I would give them the chance he never had." She turns to Marcus. "I've seen your work, child. I have a Google alert set up for any mention of your name. That painting you donated to the Children's Hospital. I went to see it. I stood in front of it, and I cried, because it was like seeing my Walter's gift alive again in a new generation." Marcus is openly weeping now. "Aunt Helen, Your Honor," Helen continues, her voice strengthening, "I would like to post whatever bail is required for my nephew. Furthermore, I would like to announce that as of this moment, Marcus Whitmore has a home. He will live with me. He will have a studio to work in, and he will never again have to worry about eviction notices or family members who should have been there for him and weren't." The gallery erupts in spontaneous applause. Judge Caprio lets it go for a moment. This is, after all, a courtroom, but it is also a place where humanity sometimes triumphs over procedure. "Order, please," he says finally, though his own eyes are glistening. "Order." As the room settles, Marcus and his great-aunt embrace, a fragile elderly woman and a broken young man, finding each other at the exact moment when both needed it most. Judge Caprio clears his throat. "Well, this has been quite a morning." Judge Frank Caprio takes a deep breath and looks out at his courtroom. The nurse is wiping her eyes. The single father is holding his son close. The elderly woman who came in for a simple traffic ticket is smiling through tears. Even the bailiff, who has seen more human drama in this room than most people see in a lifetime, looks moved. "Mr. Whitmore," Judge Caprio begins, "let me tell you what I see when I look at this case." Marcus, still standing close to his great-aunt, straightens up. "I see a young man who drove recklessly and endangered lives. That's serious. That can't be ignored. I also see a young man who, when confronted by an officer of the law, said something that tells me he was in a very dark place. Go ahead and shoot me. I don't care anymore." Those aren't the words of a criminal. Those are the words of someone in crisis. He pauses, letting the words settle. "I see a young man who walked into this courtroom wearing someone else's suit and someone else's attitude because he thought that was the only way to protect himself. He was wrong about that. The bravest thing you did today, Marcus, wasn't threatening me with your uncle's phone calls. It was telling me the truth. It was letting this courtroom see who you really are. Here's what I've learned in 40 years on this bench. Power isn't about phone calls or family names or expensive lawyers. Real power, the kind that matters, is the power to look at another human being and see their pain, even when they're trying to hide it. Real power is choosing mercy when punishment would be easier. Your grandmother understood that. Your great-aunt understands that. And I think deep down you understand it too." He picks up the case file and studies it one more time. "Here's my ruling. On the charge of reckless driving, guilty. On the charge of fleeing a traffic stop, guilty. On the charge of verbal assault of an officer, I'm going to dismiss that one because I've read the officer's statement and I believe he understands, as I do, that you weren't really threatening him. You were crying out for help in the only way you knew how." Marcus nods silently. "For the reckless driving and fleeing, the standard fine would be $3,000 plus points on your license plus potential jail time." Helen Whitmore reaches for her purse, but Judge Caprio raises his hand. "Put your checkbook away, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm not finished." The courtroom holds its breath. "Marcus, I'm going to suspend the fine entirely on one condition. You mentioned that you donated a painting to the Children's Hospital last year. I want you to do it again. I want you to create a new piece, something that speaks to what you've been through, something about hope and second chances. And I want you to donate it to a place where people need to see it. A shelter, a rehab center, a hospice. You choose." Marcus's eyes widen. "Your Honor, I would do that anyway. You don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I want to. Because that's what your grandmother would have wanted. That's what real justice looks like. It's not about punishment. It's about redemption. It's about taking the worst moment of someone's life and turning it into an opportunity for them to become better." Judge Caprio stands up, something he rarely does during a hearing, and looks directly at Marcus. "You came into this courtroom telling me I was powerless, and you were right about one thing. I don't have the power to fix your relationship with your father. I don't have the power to bring your grandmother back. I don't have the power to undo the pain your family has caused you. But here's what I do have the power to do. I have the power to look at a young man standing at a crossroads and say, I believe in you. I have the power to show mercy when the law would permit me to be harsh. I have the power to recognize that behind every case file is a human being with a story that deserves to be heard." He sits back down and picks up his gavel. "Marcus Whitmore, I'm sentencing you to 1 year of probation, a mandatory counseling program for grief and mental health, and the creation of one piece of art to be donated to a charitable organization of your choice. If you complete all of these requirements, your record will be expunged. You'll walk out of this process with a clean slate and a second chance." He smiles, that warm, grandfatherly smile that has made him beloved to millions. "And one more thing. When you finish that painting, I want you to bring it by the courthouse. I'd like to see it. I have a feeling it's going to be something special." Marcus can barely speak. "Thank you, Your Honor. I don't know what to say. I came in here expecting to be punished, and you saw me. You actually saw me. That's my job," Judge Caprio says simply. "Seeing people. It's not about the robe or the gavel or the title. It's about looking at the person standing in front of you and asking yourself, what do they need? How can I help? That's all any of us can do for each other. He brings the gavel down gently. Case dismissed. And Marcus, your grandmother is proud of you. I'm certain of it. As Marcus and Helen Whitmore walk out of the courtroom together, the gallery rises in spontaneous applause. The nurse, the single father, the elderly woman, the bailiff, even the stern-faced attorney who came in expecting to fight, all of them stand and clap for a young man who came in wearing armor and left carrying hope. Judge Caprio watches them go, then turns to Inspector Quinn with a small smile. Okay, who's next? And just like that, the work continues, because in Providence Municipal Court, under the watchful eye of Judge Frank Caprio, every day brings new stories, new struggles, and new opportunities for mercy. Real justice isn't about power. It's about seeing the person behind the case file and giving them a reason to believe that tomorrow can be better than today.